Hi everybody, I'm John Hankins. I'm the chairman of the Stewardship Committee at Joshua's Trust, and we're going to talk a little bit today about our relationship with abutting property owners, a behind the scenes look of how we manage our properties. Every one of Joshua's Trust properties has a steward that is assigned to it. You're out today at the Schmidt Preserve in Coventry. It's one of our newest properties. We've only had this for a couple months. One of the first things we do when we acquire a property is to mark the boundaries, and that's very important for us so that our neighbors understand where their land ends and where ours begins. We typically do that after we determine where the boundaries are by putting up medallions. They look like this. They generally say Joshua's Trust Preserve or something similar to that. We put these generally on trees, but if we don't have trees, we use a post like the one that I'm holding in my hand. We do that through the entire perimeter of the property, and whenever we can, we talk to our abutting property owners just so they understand what we're doing, why we put up the medallions, and that they understand and agree where the property lines are. Out here at the Schmidt Preserve, we have a problem that we can run into from time to time, where we get complaints from abutting property owners that there's something going on at the property that we need to know about. In this case, one of the local landowners indicated that there was some activity on the property, whether that was partying or people staying overnight. They weren't too specific, but we came out and investigated and did find a place that we needed to clean up in coordination with the neighbors' assistance. They also mentioned the problem that, and we see this from time to time, that people that had been using the preserve were wandering from the preserve onto their property. And this was probably done without the individual even knowing it. Sometimes we have trails that lead from our properties onto neighboring properties. People aren't really welcome to go from our property onto a neighboring property, particularly if it's a residential property or something like that. So we have another solution to that issue. We put a sign up similar to this. This sign is facing the neighbor's property to notify individuals that are using our properties that they've reached the boundary of the Joshua's Trust property, and now they're walking onto a neighbor's property. These are just some of the things that we at Joshua's Trust do to maintain our good relationships with our neighbors. Who doesn't like to party? Every once in a while on our properties, we do have folks that come and use them without our permission for purposes that are inconsistent with the goals of Joshua's Trust. You can see in this photo at the Schmidt Preserve several weeks ago, we came out and we discovered this nice little area complete with plastic chairs and vodka bottles. So this was something that really wasn't acceptable. We talked to the abutting neighbor about it. He wasn't aware of it, and when we looked at it and he looked at it, we both agreed it was something that needed to be cleaned up. He volunteered to do the job. Problem solved. And I'm actually standing on the location where you saw those plastic chairs in the photo. As you can see, everything's cleaned up, and we've got a really nice site in front of the little pond that exists on the property. So we're here at the Schmidt Preserve, now along the Willimantic River. The Willimantic River forms one boundary of this preserve, and it's a great backdrop to talk about the role of stewards with Joshua's Trust. As I mentioned earlier, every property is assigned a steward, and we have upwards of 60 properties, so that's a lot of volunteer help, and we really appreciate the work that our stewards do for us. Stewards are responsible for making sure that the property is properly maintained. They do a lot of this work themselves, but when the job is too big, they call on a larger group of volunteers that Joshua's Trust has to work with them. Stewards are also responsible once a year for doing a complete inventory of the property. They walk the property line and they fill out a stewardship report. That's a requirement both of Joshua's Trust itself as well as the Land Conservation Alliance, a group that we belong to for accreditation. The stewards maintain the trails, they maintain the boundaries, they make sure that those property medallions are properly marked up, they police the edges of the property, the parking lots. It's a big job, and they do a great job of it. I'm standing in a dump, at least a roadside dump. Occasionally on Joshua's Trust properties, we have issues with roadside dumping from, I don't know who, neighbors, people that live in the community. Probably generally people live in community have been dumping in these areas for years. So these are things we have to solve. First, we've got to get everything picked up. Then basically we've got to make this look like a preserve. We got to make this look like a place people want to go to enjoy themselves outside. Generally, that will take care of the issues with dumping. We hope you've enjoyed this little video clip and are impressed by our volunteer activities and perhaps even inspired to volunteer for yourself. If you'd like to volunteer to be of assistance at Joshua's Trust, please call our office. We're on the web at www.joshuastrust.org.